Alright guys, so I'm finally getting around to doing the three-way comparison between the Bliger, Pagani and Phylida No Time to Die homages. Obviously two of them being the actual No Time to Die colour, and obviously the Pagani just being the different colour. But you'll get the idea, because the main difference is going to be to do with specs. So the looks don't matter too much. So the reason I've taken so long doing this is because I was actually waiting for the Heimdallr to come out as well. And I'm still waiting to actually get that. Hopefully that will be coming soon. So if you do want to see that added into this comparison, or perhaps what you consider the winner of this one to be compared to that, because apparently that is pretty good, and obviously it is titanium, so that kind of takes it a step above in some ways. Let me know, and hopefully we can get that sorted at some point. So like I say, I'm not going to be going into massive detail. If you want to see detailed reviews on all of these watches, I'll leave links down in the description. And maybe even put them up here as well. But apart from the Phylida, I've done detailed reviews on both of these, and this is technically going to be like the review / comparison for the Phylida one. So let's take a look at them. So starting off with the Bliger, and as you can see right away we've got a slight issue with this. The bezel is ever so slightly misaligned, which isn't ideal, but given the price of the watch, not a massive issue. But there is a little bit of play in that bezel as well. But other than that, it's got a nice action on it. And like I say, it more or less lines up. But it is a nice ceramic bezel. Nicely colour matched as well, with the faux patina on the dial. So I do like that. In comparison, show you the Phylida, this has actually got a slightly different colour to it, and as you can also see as well, the finish on this ceramic bezel is actually matte, whereas the other one was gloss. So again, another slight difference. And the action on this one, although it is quite stiff, that might loosen up a bit more over time, but it is rock solid, absolutely no movement on that. So, bezel action wise, I'd say this was better. And it lines up better as well. Again, it might be like ever so slightly off, but you would have to get really close to be able to tell. I think it might actually be bang on. Might just be because I'm looking through the camera. It looks slightly off, a fraction, but I think it is fine actually, the more I look at it. But either way, when you're wearing it, you can't really tell. But again, if I get the other one, so you can actually see them side by side, you can actually see there's quite a distinctive colour difference. And like I say, that's got the glossy finish on the ceramic, whereas this has got the matte. So it depends which one you prefer out of the two. The other thing that jumps out straight away as well is these date windows. So as you can see, the Phylida's got a colour matched one. The Bliger has just got the white. Other than that though, handset wise, they're pretty much identical. Down to that red tip on the second hand as well. Got a printed dial, printed logo, applied indices, silver surround. So talked about them quite a bit now. I'll probably bring in the Pagani, and obviously, like I say, with it being a different colour, you can't do a direct comparison. But let's talk about this bezel. So apparently, since I got mine, they have actually fixed this, because mine has a lot of play in it. The action, it's not fantastic overall, to be honest. It feels a little bit hollow and quite loose. And obviously with that much play, you can't really line it up. Well, you can line it up, but it's going to move a bit. When it comes to the rest of the dial, if I quickly again grab one of these. So this has got the same ceramic kind of high polish that the Bliger has, as opposed to the matte one of the Phylida. And another thing as well is the hands are actually different. So they're more skeletonized on these two, whereas this one's got a slightly different kind of, well, it's skeletonized but not as much. and the second hand is completely different because it is fully red on this one. Not entirely sure what it's like on the No Time to Die version. I'll probably leave pictures on screen so you can see, because they do quite a few different colour versions of this one. But I picked up this because I wanted something a little bit different. So pop them back down, and let's talk about the main differences with these. So these two, I've actually switched out the straps, because originally the Bliger, that came on a not very good strap. I'll leave a picture on screen so you can see what that's like. And if you want to see in more detail, like I say, check out the full review. So I swapped that out for a Milanese one that I picked up on AliExpress, and I think it looks far better, and it wears a lot nicer as well. With the Phylida, you can actually get this on this NATO strap that I managed to pick it up on, because I think it looks quite nice. I wanted to try out NATO straps, give them another go, because I'm not really a massive fan. Again, check out the the unboxing where I talk about that in a bit more detail. But it is a really nice one, really nicely finished. But you can also get it on a bracelet as well, so you've got options with that. Now, with the Pagani, this had like the worst bracelet in my opinion. The one that this came on, it jutted out quite a lot, so it added quite a bit to the lug-to-lug. We'll talk about the measurements in a minute, but again, I've swapped it out for another Milanese strap. This one is actually from StrapsCo. So we've got a quick release on that, which is always nice to have. And again, Milanese, so easy to get a nice fit, pretty much infinitely adjustable. And it's just a really nice comfortable strap. And I think it does go with the watch better as well. Helps it wear a lot nicer on wrist. If you're interested in picking up any straps from StrapsCo, I've actually got an affiliate link down there. So I'll leave the link to this, and I'll probably leave a link to another video I did as well, where I talked about a few more of their straps, if you're interested in checking them out. They do have a nice selection. So now, instead of doing what I usually do, where I show you all the measurements on screen, and me actually measuring them out, I'll probably pop up some kind of chart or something so you can see a comparison of what the actual measurements are side by side for the three. So as you can see, when it comes to thickness, there's not a great deal in it. They're all more or less the same. Bliger being the slightly thinner of the three, and the Phylida being the thickest, ever so slightly. But again, that comes down to movements as well. So with these two, you've actually got NH35. The Bliger, you can actually have a few different options. I think there's a Miyota and also a Mingzhu, but obviously you're going to go with the NH35 out of the three. And for some reason as well, that is actually the cheaper one compared to the Miyota. Not really sure why. And again, like I say, with this one, you've got quite a few different combinations of bezels and dials and stuff, and also straps. In fact, speaking of straps, if you are going to pick this one up, I would recommend getting it on the rubber strap and not the bracelet, because the bracelet, it just doesn't wear very nicely at all. It just makes it really, really bulky and really extends that lug to lug, which, as you can see on the chart, goes from a not that compact to begin with 49mm to a 57.9, which is just frankly just way too big for most people, especially when you compare it to the Bliger and the Phylida, which are more or less the same. And I do actually like the fact that the Phylida has got a more compact lug to lug, so obviously it wears nicer on wrist. But the Bliger isn't too far over that, so that still wears quite nicely. For my 7-inch wrist anyway. Obviously, depending on your wrist size, that's going to vary. So they're all 20mm lug width, as you can see, so changing out straps won't be an issue. You should be able to get a nice strap to go with it, or bracelet, whichever you want. As for the diameter, I was actually quite surprised with this one, because I forgot, because I did the Pagani one quite a while ago, that was actually a 42mm. So as well as having that longer lug to lug initially, it also has a larger diameter as well, whereas the others both 41. So again, that wears quite large on wrist compared to the other two. So if you've got a smaller wrist, I'd definitely be going for one of the other two. Now that's out of the way, the other main differences are, okay, with this Bliger, it doesn't actually say on the dial but on the listing it says this is only 30 metres water resistant. I'm not entirely sure whether that is accurate, because we have actually got a screw down crown and screw down case back as well. So perhaps they're just saying that just to cover themselves, because they don't want to try and claim it to be any more and then have people come back to them saying I took it swimming and it's not waterproof. But make of that what you will. Now with the Pagani, this one's actually a bit more expensive than the Bliger. Obviously the Bliger is the cheapest out of the three. Then with this one, if I can zoom in, you might not be able to see that clearly, we've actually got 100 metre water resistance on this, so a nice step up from the Bliger. But again, screw down crown, screw down case back. This one is actually a display case back though, and you can see that NH35 there. Personally, I'm not really that big a fan of display case backs on the NH35 because it's not the best looking of movements. I personally prefer to have a solid case back, but each their own, I guess. With the Phylida, this is a step up above the other two in a couple of ways really. So like I say, those two are both NH35, or well, that's the best movement you can get. Again, the Bliger has a few options. So as you can see, we've actually got a nice sweeping second hand on this. That's because this has got the PT5000 movement, so that's high beat. It's actually a clone of the SW200, whereas the other two are just NH35 at best. And another thing with this one, if I zoom in again, you can actually see we've got 200 metres water resistance on this. So again, step up from the others again. And okay, this is a little bit contentious, this. Whether this is true or not, I'll leave a link to Gary's video actually, where he talked about this, if I can find it. He has quite a few, so if not, I'm sure you've probably seen it anyway. But apparently this is actually a real helium escape valve. So it does actually unscrew, and apparently that is actually functional. But obviously we can't really test that, so there's no real way of knowing. But realistically, you're probably never going to use this as a dive watch anyway, not for that kind of depth, so you're probably not going to need it. But something to be aware of, because they did specifically tell me as well as other reviewers I think, that it is actually a functional helium escape valve. Quickly pop that back down. So now let's check out the loom on these, because there is a little bit of difference between the three, and probably not in the way you'd expect. So let's charge them all up, try and do this fairly. There we go. As you can see, the Bliger is actually surprisingly good, given it's the cheapest watch here. The Pagani, on the other hand, that's fading quite a bit already. And as you can also see, it's quite patchy, especially on the indices, and they're rapidly fading. The Phylida in the middle is actually the strongest of the three, as you'd probably expect. But in comparison to the Bliger, there's not a great deal in it. So now, the question I'm guessing you all want to know is, which would I recommend out of these three? Based on what I've got here in front of me now, and what I've experienced with these three watches, straight away I would be ruling out this Pagani, because the one I have, it's got too many issues given the price, between that bezel, the dodgy bracelet, the different handset I'm not overly keen on either, to be honest. I prefer the more authentic homage style of the other two. But I do have to admit, on this strap, it does wear a bit better as well. But again, that lug to lug, it's just quite big, even with this Milanese strap. So I do prefer the other two. And price-wise, it's more expensive than the Bliger, and I think it's about the same price as the Pagani, the Phylida, sorry. So I'd be ruling that one out. Now, as for these two, it's going to come down to what you're willing to spend, and also which you prefer the look of more than anything. This one is quite a bit cheaper. It's only got the NH35 though, only got 30 metres water resistance, whereas it's got the PT5000 high beat movement, and it's got 200 metres water resistance. It's got slightly smaller dimensions on lug to lug, which is probably going to make it wear a bit nicer than the Bliger, but it's that close that there's probably not a great deal in it, so you're probably not going to notice. It basically just comes down to what you're willing to spend. If you're favouring the high beat movement, the improved water resistance, the fact that it's got a nice colour match date window as well, over the slightly cheap, well, quite a bit cheaper actually, if I'm being honest, Bliger, which has only got a claimed 30 metres. It might be more, I think, given the fact that you've got a screw down crown and screw down case back. But again, bear in mind, the strap that comes with this is not very good, and the bezel is slightly loose, but if you can deal with those issues, then by all means go for the Bliger. If you want something a bit more premium feeling, just nicer finished overall, I think, then go for the Phylida. If you're not a fan of this strap, you can get it on the bracelet, which, again, if you go for the bracelet version, it's probably going to take this to another level, but I'm not really that keen on that bracelet, to be honest. I've had it on another Seamaster Homage, and I just can't get the sizing right, which is why I went for the NATO. Plus, I'm probably going to swap it out for a Milanese like this anyway, at some point down the road, once I decide which one of these two I'm going to keep. I do like the bezel finish on this one, the fact that it's polished as opposed to a matte one. But then again, I do like the high beat movement, so, and the black date window, and the improved water resistance as well. So I can actually take it swimming when we're allowed to go on holiday again, so that would be a nice thing to have. So it depends what you want these for. If you want it as more of a desk diver, go for this one maybe. If you want a nice watch that's going to be able to do everything, you don't need to worry about it, then go with this one. And it's just a more premium one. But for what you're spending on this, it's pretty good. So that's it for this one, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's a lot longer than the ones I normally do, but we've gone over quite a bit. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.